I thought it was fascinating that the members, the Teamsters members, overwhelmingly supported Donald Trump, and that's based on the polling that you guys did. So, according to the electronic member poll that was initiated after President Joe Biden withdrew from the race, about 60% of members believed the union should endorse Trump, while 34% supported Harris. And so I was a little bit surprised by those numbers, but not really, not by much, because I think a lot of people assume, well, those who are part of labor unions, they're all like super left wing. That's not true at all. A lot of union members are not left wing. And in fact, I think a big mistake that the Democratic Party makes is that they feel entitled to the support or endorsement of labor unions, which the Teamsters decided against doing this time around. You guys didn't endorse either candidate going into the election. But I wanted to ask you, why do you think the majority of your members back Donald Trump, given the record he has, rather than supporting Kamala Harris?
Well, I think a couple of reasons. Number one, I just want to make a point. You eloquently posed it in your statement just now, is that our members are sick of being told what to do and what's good for them. And I know that as a leader of the Teamsters Union, quite frankly, we've made investments in Democrats, and we haven't got that return on investment. So that's number one. And number two is that the Democrats just think support of union working people is like 10th grade geometry. It's a given. And it's not a given anymore. Our members are very sophisticated. They're very educated. And the Democrats tried to frame this election as a social justice issue. And the social issues are very important. You talk about, abortion and everything else. They're all extremely important. However, the most important thing for working people was the inflation. It was economic with our members, and I think everybody else that was affected, that's a working person. Price of gas was extremely high. Inflation was high. Cost of groceries was high. People were forced to pay utilities on credit card bills like a 29% interest. So this clearly was a misjudgment or an underestimation of how much our members pay attention, and it's an indication that our members were hurting, and this completely was an economic election. And I think the details or the results based upon the details of our members and their input through the surveys support the surveys and the outcome of the election.
And the Teamsters did a good job in interviewing every presidential candidate in order to ensure that the members were informed on the options, and then they can make a decision over who they want to support. But what I thought was really interesting about that was, after you guys sent out the request for the candidates to be interviewed, Donald Trump was the first to commit to that interview, which I thought was impressive, to be honest with you. Biden apparently was salty over the fact that Donald Trump committed first, but eventually did get interviewed by the Teamsters. And then Kamala Harris's interview was a little more shaky. So I want to go to you talking about that while being interviewed on Tucker Carlson's show, and then I'll ask you for some more details.
Sure.
One of my vice presidents, a woman named Joan Corey out of my local, she sits on our general executive board. Joan introduces herself to Vice President Harris, says, "I'm Joan Corey. I'm on the general executive board for the Teamsters." She goes, "Teamsters? You better get on board. You better get on board. Better get on board soon." If I want to support from any organization, I am not going to point my finger in someone's face and say, "You better get on board or else." But that's the attitude of this whole party. And her declaration on the way out was, "I'm going to win with you or without you."
Oops, not a good statement to make, especially now that she's lost the election. But talk to me a little bit about what you experienced with Kamala Harris getting interviewed by the Teamsters. She seemed to not want to answer any questions.
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty in-depth negotiation, to get her there, and this was all around, the DNC stuff. There was a lot of controversy over the not being invited to speak at the DNC. So, when she finally came there, we gave each candidate 16 questions, the same exact questions, and the questions were provided well in advance, and we were told that she was only going to answer 5 questions, and then they tried to negotiate down. She's only going to answer 3 questions. So long story short, she came into the meeting, met everybody, sat down. We started the questions from rank and file members. And then her staff, 20 minutes prior to the meeting ended, we had 20 minutes left, and she answered about majority of 3 questions. And then on the 4th question, I believe it was the 4th question, her staff slipped a piece of paper across and said, "This will be the last question, and then we're leaving."
Wow.
So, so it was, pretty bold, but her declaration, like I stated on Carlson, was, "Look, we are going to win with you or without you." And I thought that was pretty arrogant. And, if I'm coming to present and ask for something, I am going to be as humble, but I'm going to be as passionate about, and appreciative of asking for support. And that compassion and appreciation was not relevant. It was like, I'm going to win with or without you. And if I win, watch out. It was kind of like a threat type of declaration. And, I think the one thing that everybody recognizes in society right now is, you can't just go around demanding and being arrogant about, the direction that you want to go in or the support that you're seeking. You've got to be a little bit humble and modest. And that clearly wasn't her best day in front of us.
I mean, I totally agree with that. I mean, you are trying to be a public servant. I mean, yes, the president is an incredibly important person, powerful person, but you're still supposed to be a public servant, a representative of the American people. The idea, I just feel like Democrats in recent election cycles have kind of presented themselves as if we're the public servants, as if they're entitled to our votes without actually carrying out policies that have benefited the American people. And look, I'm hoping that this past election cycle was a teachable moment for them. Senator Bernie Sanders has always been good on issues pertaining to workers' rights and labor, and he was willing to come out after the election was all said and done and just call out the party for the mistakes they've been making, the fact that they've abandoned the working class. And I really want them to go back to what they used to represent, because right now I personally feel politically homeless. But I really do commend you for your willingness to work with both political parties in order to secure some wins on behalf of the Teamsters members. That's what you're supposed to do. And regardless of the pushback that you might get, I think it's the right course of action. And I really do appreciate you, the work you do and what you represent. Keep taking the fight to these members of Congress. It's not only entertaining to watch, but it's inspiring.
And I'm glad it can be a source of entertainment, but it's true. I mean, look, we know who we represent. We know who we work for. And look, I'll just say this. It's a great opportunity for both parties to prove, that there's the ability to reset and refocus, and there's also an ability to collaborate to actually effectuate change on the Republican side as it relates to working people. So hopefully we can do this. And look, there's going to be critics no matter what we do. We just got to focus on our mission, and that's representing our members and representing the American workers in the United States.
I love it. Thank you so much, Sean O'Brien. I hope you'll come back again soon, and thank you for being so generous with your time.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you.
Thanks for watching the video, guys. We also love it if you hit the join button below, because that makes you a member, and members allow us to be independent, honest. We can be as progressive as we want, no corporate media influence, and that's all because of you guys. We love doing the show with our members. Hit the join button, become one of the Young Turks.